So, physical borders are historically pretty simple to understand,
Yeah.
right? You see a physical threat, you deploy the military to a specific line on a map, and, well, a general can just point to it and say, there it is.
Right. It's very tangible.
Exactly. But when you step into the world of digital sovereignty, that map becomes completely useless. We are looking at a defensive landscape that is invisible, it's borderless, and it is everywhere all at once. And right now, in June 2026, Mexico is staring down this exact problem.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and they're doing it while co-hosting the biggest sporting event on Earth, the FIFA World Cup.
Which is, I mean, it's the ultimate digital stress test for any nation.
It really is.
Yeah.
The World Cup is putting this massive target on Mexico's back for global cyber criminals, and this is happening right at the exact moment the country is trying to rewrite its own national security playbook, like from the ground up.
Yeah, the timing is incredible.
It's wild. And that is our mission today. We are unpacking a huge stack of threat intelligence reports and policy documents for you, all regarding Mexico's newly announced 2025 to 2030 National Cybersecurity Plan.
There's a lot to get through.
There is. We want to understand how a country rebuilds its digital defenses while literally under active siege. And of course, before we jump in, we have to thank the sponsors who make this level of research possible for you.
Huge thanks to them.
Yeah, shout out to www.compliancehub.wiki, www.breached.company, and www.myprivacy.blog. So to understand this massive defense strategy, where do we even begin?
Well, you really have to look at the immediate pressures forcing their hand right now.
So let's look at that stress test you mentioned. We've got World Cup matches happening in Mexico City, Guadalajara, Monterrey. I mean, these are massive, dense urban centers.
Highly populated, yeah.
Right. And the intelligence reports highlight how this event is placing just extreme strain on their infrastructure. We're talking about ticketing platforms, hospitality networks, transit systems like that, the VAVA network down there.
Yeah, the local municipal government databases, too. Because, these systems are inherently interconnected now.
How so?
Well, think about it. When a tourist buys a digital ticket, and then they tap a mobile pass on a transit turnstile, and then check into a hotel Wi-Fi network.
Leaving a trail.
Exactly. They are creating this massive overlapping surface area for threat actors. Attackers are basically looking for either massive societal disruption or, more likely, major financial gain.
It's essentially like, it's like trying to rip out all the wiring in your house to install a brand new complex security system, but you choose to do it while simultaneously throwing the biggest, rowdiest block party of the decade.
That is a great way to put it.
With millions of strangers just walking through your front door.
Yeah, it's a chaotic environment, perfectly suited for exploitation. But what the intelligence makes clear is that the World Cup really just brings heightened international scrutiny.
Right, it's a spotlight.
Exactly. The baseline day-to-day threat landscape in Mexico is already incredibly intense. It is heavily dominated by financial motives.
Okay, so who is driving that baseline threat?
Ransomware is absolutely number one. Mexico actually has the second most victims of ransomware in all of Latin America.
Wait, really? Second most?
Yeah, sitting right behind Brazil. We are seeing major syndicates heavily targeting the government, manufacturing, and food and beverage sectors. Groups like Lockbit, well, at least before Operation Kronos happened, along with very active groups like Kulin and CL0P.
Hold on, we should probably define Operation Kronos for a second, because that was a massive shift in the cybersecurity space recently.
Oh, it was a total watershed moment. Operation Kronos was this highly coordinated international law enforcement task force. They essentially hacked the hackers.
Which is amazing.
Right. Law enforcement actually infiltrated Lockbit's infrastructure. They seized their servers, took their decryption keys, and just completely disrupted their ability to extort victims.
But I'm guessing that didn't just solve the problem.
Unfortunately, no. The reality of cybercrime is that nature abhors a vacuum. Even with Lockbit severely hobbled, other groups, they immediately stepped up to fill the void in Mexico.
Wow. And why are they targeting manufacturing and government agencies so aggressively? Like, why those specific sectors?
It really comes down to legacy systems and leverage.
Legacy systems meaning old tech.
Yeah, exactly. Those sectors often run on much older software that just hasn't been updated to patch known vulnerabilities. And furthermore, if you look at a government tax agency or a massive logistics firm, they hold a high concentration of sensitive, personally identifiable information.
The stakes are higher.
Way higher. If a ransomware ransomware group locks down a hospital's patient records or, say, a factory's supply chain software, the victims are under immense pressure to pay that ransom quickly.
Just to avoid catastrophic real-world consequences.
Exactly. But it's not just locking systems down and demanding a ransom. The reports we looked at detail a massive amount of direct, silent financial theft.
Violent theft, so they don't even know they're being robbed.
Right. Mexico is actually in the top 5 globally for victims of info stealers and stolen payment cards.
Yeah, this is where specialized malware families like Asyncrat and Danabot
Yep.
come into play, right?
Yes, exactly.
So RAT stands for Remote Access Trojan. How does that actually function, once it gets inside someone's computer?
Think of a RAT as a digital puppet string. Once the malware infects your machine, and this is usually because someone clicked a malicious email attachment or, visited a compromised website, it establishes a hidden backdoor connection.
Back to the attacker.
Right, back to the attacker's command server. The attacker can now literally view your screen. They can log every single keystroke you make, steal your saved browser passwords, and siphon off payment card data.
And this is all just running in the background.
Entirely in the background. You wouldn't notice a single glitch on your screen.
That's terrifying. Actually, the technical mechanics of the Phoenix botnet operation, that really blew my mind when reviewing the intelligence for this deep dive.
Oh, the Phoenix botnet is incredibly devious.
It is, because it preys on human psychology, just as much as it preys on software vulnerabilities.
It's a prime example of targeted social engineering. The operators actively impersonate official government portals.
Right.
Specifically, they clone the website for Mexico's tax administration service, the SAT, and they deliberately launch these campaigns during tax season.
Because during tax season, everyone is already stressed out of their minds.
Yes.
If you receive an email with official government logos saying, urgent tax discrepancy found, your adrenaline spikes. You are highly likely to just click the link without even verifying the URL.
But precisely, they exploit that natural panic. And mechanically, they use a very sophisticated 2-tiered infrastructure to pull this off.
How does the 2-tier thing work?
So Tier 1 is the front line. It delivers the malicious software, and it hosts the fake login panels that look identical, pixel perfect, to the real SAT website.
Right.
When a victim types in their username and password, Tier 1 captures it. Then Tier 2 acts as a secure, heavily encrypted central server hidden much deeper in the internet.
Okay, so it passes the data along.
Yeah, Tier 1 automatically funnels all those harvested credentials and the payment data back to Tier 2 for collection.
And once the attackers have, thousands of stolen credit cards sitting on that Tier 2 server, they don't just hold on to them, they monetize them.
Oh, immediately.
This is the dark underground economy at work. And I have to say, it is exactly why resources like www.breach.company are so crucial for understanding this threat landscape.
Absolutely.
If you look at the dark web forums, places like dark forums, which the intelligence specifically names as a massive hub for targeting Mexico, or breach forums too, these operate like bustling Amazon-style marketplaces.
Yeah, it's been completely commercialized.
Millions of stolen Mexican payment cards are auctioned off to the highest bidder every single day. The reports also highlight that the compromised data, like the actual communications of hundreds of journalists, are being sold on these exact same platforms.
Yeah, it is a staggering volume of illicit commerce. But having established that baseline of financial cybercrime, the landscape actually shifts into something much more complex and localized.
How so?
Well, the digital threat in Mexico isn't just opportunistic hackers sitting in a basement in Eastern Europe. It is fundamentally intertwined with geopolitics and traditional physical crime.
I have to pause you there because the idea of a drug cartel operating a cyber division sounds like the plot of a Hollywood thriller.
I know, it really does.
We traditionally think of cartels as a purely physical, boots-on-the-ground threat, right? Drugs, guns, territorial violence. Are you really saying that drug trafficking organizations, groups like the Sinaloa Cartel or the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, are operating as multinational, tech-savvy corporations?
The intelligence confirms they are. They're actively leveraging what is known as cybercrime as a service.
Cybercrime as a service, okay.
Now, to be clear, they aren't necessarily sitting in hidden jungle compounds writing complex malware code from scratch.
Right, they aren't software developers.
Exactly. Instead, they operate like corporate executives outsourcing a highly technical project. They literally hire specialized freelance hackers on the dark web to deploy targeted surveillance software.
To accomplish what, though?
primarily to hunt down and track informants, people who are cooperating with law enforcement or sometimes to surveil rival cartel members.
Wow.
Yeah, they use advanced digital tools to pinpoint physical locations, read encrypted messages, track movement. The digital surveillance is directly used to facilitate physical violence.
Using an info stealer to find an informant's GPS coordinates, that is chilling.
It's a very dark reality.
But their technological integration doesn't stop at surveillance, does it? Because the financial logistics outlined in these reports are even more sophisticated.
Oh, the financial side is fascinating.
Yeah, Mexican DTOs are heavily leveraging cryptocurrency and Chinese money laundering networks, CMLNs, to clean their illicit drug proceeds. Let's dig into that.
Yeah, this is a textbook example of the law of unintended consequences in policymaking.
Oh, so.
Well, back in 2010, Mexico introduced these really strict anti-money laundering laws. The goal was to cripple the cartels by placing hard legal limits on the amount of United States dollar cash deposits anyone could make into a Mexican bank.
Okay, so if a cartel has, say, tens of millions of dollars in physical street cash sitting in Los Angeles,
Right.
they suddenly can't just drive it across the border and deposit it into a bank in Mexico City.
Right. The bank system will automatically reject it. The front door was essentially locked.
So to bypass this massive logistical hurdle, the cartels started using a highly complex trade-based system.
Facilitated by these Chinese money laundering networks, yes.
Okay, walk me through the actual mechanics of this trade-based laundering. How does physical cash in California turn into clean, usable pesos in Sinaloa using networks in China? It sounds impossible.
It functions exactly like an international corporate supply chain. So first, a cartel associate has a stockpile of illicit U.S. dollars sitting in the United States.
Okay, physical cash.
Physical cash. A broker from a Chinese money laundering network takes possession of that physical cash.
Right.
In exchange for the cash, the broker transfers an equivalent amount of cryptocurrency or makes a digital bank transfer to a legitimate manufacturing company located in China.
Wait, so the physical U.S. cash never actually leaves the United States?
Exactly. It stays right there in the U.S. underground economy.
Okay.
Meanwhile, that legitimate Chinese manufacturer, having received the digital funds, ships physical, high-value goods, think massive shipping containers of electronics, textiles, clothing. They ship it across the ocean to a cartel-affiliated retail business in Mexico.
I see where this is going. And then the cartel-affiliated business simply sells those physical iPads and clothes on the open market in Mexico.
Yes.
And the revenue generated from those legal, everyday retail sales is clean, local Mexican pesos.
It is an almost perfectly closed loop of international trade.
That is insane.
They bypass the banking restrictions on U.S. dollars entirely by turning the money into consumer goods, shipping it across the ocean, and liquidating it into pesos.
And the cryptocurrency.
The cryptocurrency just serves as the untraceable digital bridge between the broker in the U.S. and the factory in China.
That level of logistical brilliance is just staggering. And it really highlights why digital privacy isn't just a luxury for everyday citizens in this region, It's literally a matter of physical safety.
Without a doubt.
If you are a journalist, an activist, or a potential informant, you are up against organized crime syndicates running advanced multinational digital operations. It is exactly why relying on comprehensive privacy resources like our sponsor www.myprivacy.blog is absolutely vital. You have to understand how to shield your digital footprint when the adversaries are this well-funded and motivated.
And incredibly, organized crime is still just one facet of the Hydra Mexico is fighting right now.
There's more.
Oh, yeah. The intelligence also heavily focuses on ideologically driven hacktivism and state-sponsored espionage.
Okay, let's look at the hacktivism. These are groups breaching systems for a political cause rather than financial gain, right?
Yes, exactly. The sources detail groups like the Cronus team, which they actually recently merged with another group called the Mexican Mafia team.
What do they actually do?
Their primary tactic is web defacement. That's essentially hacking into a website's backend and completely replacing the homepage with their own logo, propaganda, or political messaging.
Like a digital billboard takeover.
Exactly. And they pair this with publishing massive data leaks, specifically to embarrass government institutions and hijack media attention.
But the most significant event mentioned in the reports is the Guacamaya group. In 2022, they executed a massive hack against Sedena.
Which is Mexico's Secretariat of National Defense, the military.
Right. So how does a decentralized group of hacktivists actually breach a national military's secure servers? I mean, that sounds incredibly difficult.
Well, while the technical autopsy of that specific breach is highly guarded, obviously the mechanism for these types of attacks usually involves exploiting unpatched vulnerabilities in email servers.
Just normal email servers.
Yeah, because a massive military organization has thousands of servers handling internal communications. If just one critical software update is missed on a single server, an attacker can use a known exploit to bypass authentication protocols entirely.
Wow.
And once they gain that initial foothold, they systematically download terabytes of emails over a period of months, usually without triggering internal alarms.
And what was Guacamaya's motive for targeting the military? And I want to be clear for you listening, we are, of course, strictly and impartially reporting what is contained in the intelligence files here. We aren't endorsing any views, just explaining the source material. But why focus on defense institutions?
According to the source documents, Guacamaya's stated motive for selecting targets is deeply tied to environmental and social issues.
Go ahead.
They target institutions they believe contribute to environmental decline or the repression of indigenous populations across Latin America. They view the military as an enforcer of those systemic issues, hence the targeted data dump.
So we basically have digital attacks functioning as modern political protest.
Pretty much.
And then, layered on top of the ransomware syndicates, the cartel crypto laundering, and the hacktivists, you have foreign nation-states poking around in the network, too.
Right. Geography and economics make Mexico an irresistible target for state-sponsored actors. I mean, Mexico is deeply integrated with U.S. supply chains.
The nearshoring trend.
Exactly. They have a massive nearshoring manufacturing base. Global companies are increasingly moving their factories to Mexico to shorten their supply lines to the United States.
Which means the valuable intellectual property of those global companies is now sitting on Mexican servers.
Yes. And we see Chinese state-sponsored groups, specifically one designated as Tag 141, deploying customized malware against Mexican universities and telecommunications infrastructure.
To steal data.
The primary goal there is pure corporate espionage. They are stealing valuable intellectual property, advanced research, and telecommunications routing data.
The reports also mention North Korea operating in the region. That one surprised me.
North Korea utilizes a completely different tactic. They run remote IT worker schemes.
How does that work?
They essentially use stolen identities to get North Korean operatives hired as remote, freelance software developers at Western and Latin American companies.
Seriously.
Yeah.
They just get hired as normal employees.
Yeah, and they collect the tech industry salaries to generate illicit revenue for Pyongyang. And occasionally, they use their privileged internal access to map the company's network for future attacks.
Okay, if I am the Mexican government, this is an absolute nightmare scenario. You have ransomware locking up infrastructure, cartels laundering money via global electronics shipments, hacktivists leaking military emails by the terabyte, and foreign spies siphoning off intellectual property.
It is overwhelming.
A fragmented agency-by-agency defense obviously isn't working. So how are they fundamentally redesigning their approach to actually fight back?
Well, this brings us to the core of the Sheinbaum administration's 2025 to 2030 National Cybersecurity Plan.
Right, the master plan.
Instead of just reacting to individual breaches, they are attempting a multi-year structural overhaul designed to solve specific systemic vulnerabilities.
Let's break down how this roadmap actually tackles the massive problems we just discussed.
The first major problem is isolation. Cybersecurity cannot be done in a vacuum. So in their 2025 foundation phase, they focused heavily on international framework integration.
Okay, what does that look like in practice?
They formally joined the LAC4, the Latin America and Caribbean Cyber Competence Center, and they signed a memorandum of understanding to share real-time threat intelligence with Brazil.
That makes total sense. It's realizing that if a ransomware group is deploying a new tactic in Brazil today, they will likely target Mexico tomorrow. You absolutely need a shared early warning system across borders.
Precisely. The next massive problem is visibility. Right now, in the 2026 expansion phase, the intelligence indicates they are pushing a sweeping general cybersecurity law and building a National Center for Cybersecurity Operations, or a CSOC.
CSOC. What exactly does a CSOC do mechanically for a government?
Think of it as a central nervous system for the nation's digital infrastructure.
Yeah.
Historically, the Department of Transportation and, say, the Ministry of Health, they would monitor their own networks blindly, completely separate from each other.
Right, isolated silos.
Exactly. A CSOC changes that. All the network traffic data from across federal institutions flows into one massive central hub.
And someone's watching all of it.
Security analysts at the CSOC monitor that traffic 204/7, and they use automated AI tools to spot anomalies. Like if there's an unexpected massive data transfer leaving a server at 3 a.m., which could indicate a ransomware exfiltration.
They can see it immediately.
Yes. The CSOC can detect and neutralize the threat before it spreads laterally across the government.
That is a massive operational upgrade.
Yeah.
But having a central nervous system requires having highly trained people who actually know what they're looking at on the monitors,
Very true.
which leads to the 2027 consolidation phase. The intelligence states they want to create a national cyber range.
Yes, this directly addresses the problem of untrained personnel. A cyber range is a hyper-realistic digital simulation environment.
Like a flight simulator for hackers.
Basically, yeah. The government plans to run continuous red team versus blue team exercises.
And for anyone unfamiliar with the terminology, the red team acts as the ethical hackers actively simulating the attack, and the blue team are the internal security staff trying to defend the network in real time.
Exactly. They will simulate advanced persistent threats, ransomware lockdowns, massive DDoS attacks.
DDoS being a distributed denial of service attack, essentially using a botnet to overwhelm a target website with so much fake traffic that the servers crash and legitimate users just can't access it.
Spot on. They want to train public officials and critical infrastructure operators on how to handle these crises in a safe, simulated environment, before a real attack hits a municipal power grid or a hospital's dispatch system.
Okay, so establishing early warning systems, building a central nervous system, and training the staff. This all seems incredibly logical.
It's a solid foundation.
But then we hit the 2029 phase of the plan. And this is where I really have to push back, because the intelligence says their ultimate goal is the leadership phase. By 2029, Mexico wants to transition from defending itself to becoming the regional cybersecurity provider for all of Latin America.
That is the stated goal, yes.
They want to export their services via the General Directorate of Cybersecurity, offering consulting, technology transfers, large-scale incident response to all their neighbors. Wait. How is a country that is currently struggling to contain massive cartel tech operations and baseline ransomware attacks supposed to turn around in just 3 years and sell security blueprints to everyone else? I mean, that sounds almost impossible.
It is an incredibly steep mountain to climb, and honestly, the intelligence analysts clearly share your skepticism. It's time for a reality check. Mexico has actually tried to launch a national cybersecurity strategy before, back in 2017.
And what happened?
It failed entirely.
Why did it fail?
Political turnover. A new administration came into power, they deprioritized digital defense, and the funding simply dried up. Cybersecurity requires sustained, multi-year commitment, which is notoriously difficult in democratic cycles.
So why do analysts think this 2025 to 2030 plan has a chance?
Well, the political mechanics are very different this time. The current Sheinbaum administration holds a supermajority in Congress.
Ah, so they have the votes.
They have the actual legislative power to force the general cybersecurity law through without getting bogged down in partisan gridlock. However, the intelligence clearly notes that public verification of the current 2026 expansion steps is very murky.
Meaning we don't know if they're actually doing it.
Right. We can't see exactly how much of the proposed CSOC or the virtual training academies have actually been built yet.
Which leads to the most critical, actionable advice in the threat reports. If you are a private business or an organization operating in Mexico right now, watching this massive government plan slowly turn its gears, what do? I mean, you can't just wait for the government to save you.
You absolutely cannot wait. The threats are moving exponentially faster than the legislation. Organizations need to adopt international standards immediately. The reports specifically recommend frameworks like NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or ISO/IS 2701.
Let's define those quickly, because these aren't just software programs you buy off the shelf.
No, not at all.
They're essentially highly detailed, globally recognized instruction manuals for how a company should manage its data, limit employee network access, encrypt communications, and audit its own security posture.
Correct. They are comprehensive blueprints for risk management. If a company strictly implements the controls required by NIST, they drastically reduce.
And if you are an organization trying to figure out how to implement those dense NIST standards, or how to ensure you are compliant with whatever new 2026 regulatory laws Mexico actually passes, you need to visit www.compliancehub.wiki.
It's an essential tool.
They are a phenomenal resource for breaking down exactly what these massive regulatory shifts and framework requirements mean for private sector businesses. Because the reality is, compliance isn't just a legal suggestion anymore, it's operational survival.
It is going to require a massive shift in organizational culture, both in the public sector and the private sector, to weather this storm.
We have covered a massive amount of ground today. To synthesize what we've learned, Mexico is standing at a deeply complex historic crossroads. They are facing a really unique, multi-layered threat landscape.
Yeah, from all sides.
You have everyday ransomware syndicates exploiting legacy systems. You have cartels using Chinese trade networks and cryptocurrency to launder money while buying cybercrime as a service to hunt informants. You have hacktivists breaching the military and nation-states siphoning off intellectual property.
It's a perfect storm. And they are using the extreme immediate pressure of hosting the 2026 World Cup as the catalyst to finally force a structural overhaul.
They are trying to build an entirely new fortress while under active siege. And their ultimate goal to become Latin America's primary cyber leader by 2029 is a massive, high-stakes gamble.
The whole world, and especially the threat actors, are watching the execution of this master plan very closely.
Before we sign off, we owe a massive thank you to the sponsors who make these deep dives possible: www.compliancehub.wiki, www.breached.company, and www.myprivacy.blog. Their continued support keeps you informed on the realities of this rapidly shifting digital landscape.
Thank you to them, and thank you for joining us on this analysis.
We started today talking about how the defensive map has fundamentally changed, how borders are no longer physical lines in the sand, but invisible networks everywhere at once. So I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about your day.
Okay, let's hear it.
Let's say Mexico actually pulls off this incredibly ambitious plan. If they successfully transition from a nation under siege to the primary cyber shield for Latin America by 2029, well, how will traditional geopolitical alliances shift when a nation's most valuable export is no longer physical goods like oil or manufacturing, but digital sovereignty and security itself?
Now that is a fascinating question for a borderless world.
Keep questioning, keep exploring, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.